Krovik's stood before the High Council of the Galactic Confederation, their crystalline form shimmering with pride. As the most accomplished elimination specialist in the known universe, they had never failed a mission in 3 centuries of service. The humans must not join the Confederation, Elder Zixtal declared, their voice resonating through the chamber. Their primitive species threatens the delicate balance we've maintained for millennia. Your task is to demonstrate their unsuitability through natural means. Krovik's absorbed their orders with practiced detachment. The mission seemed almost insultingly simple. Orchestrate accidents and incidents at the human colony on Proxima b to prove humans weren't ready for space travel. No direct elimination that would draw too much attention, just carefully crafted disasters that would demonstrate human fragility. The journey to Proxima b took 3 standard cycles. Krovik's spent the time studying human physiology files, though most were heavily redacted. The species appeared remarkably primitive. No genetic optimization, no biomechanical augmentation, not even basic radiation resistance. They still relied on crude life support systems and required constant atmospheric pressure. Krovik's ship docked at the Proxima b colony under the guise of a xenobiological researcher. The landing bay was disappointingly crude, all metal and ceramics, no quantum-stabilized materials or consciousness-integrated systems. A human in a stained environmental suit approached, removing their helmet to reveal a face covered in facial hair. "Welcome to Proxima b. I'm Marcus, Colony Engineering Chief. Hope you had a smooth flight through the solar winds. They've been nasty lately." Krovik's translator struggled with the human's casual dialect. The journey was adequate. "I seek to study human adaptation to extraterrestrial environments." Perfect timing. "We're about to start pressure testing the new hydroponics dome. Want to observe?" Krovik's crystalline structure vibrated with anticipation. A pressure test would provide the perfect opportunity for an accident. They followed Marcus through the colony's corridors, noting the primitive safety systems and exposed power conduits. This would be almost too easy. The hydroponics dome was massive, its transparent panels refracting the red light of Proxima Centauri. Marcus and his team began the pressure test, steadily increasing the atmospheric density. Krovik's discreetly interfaced with the control system, programming a catastrophic pressure spike. The dome's warning systems blared as pressure reached critical levels. Marcus frowned at the readings, then did something completely unexpected. He ran toward the danger, not away from it. Manual override stuck. "I'm going in." Before anyone could stop him, Marcus had sealed himself inside the failing dome. Krovik's watched in fascination as the human fought against the increasing pressure, making his way to the control panel. The pressure reached levels that should have crushed any organic being. Yet Marcus kept moving, his movements strained but deliberate. With a final effort, he reached the override, his fingers pressing the emergency release. The pressure stabilized, then gradually returned to normal. Marcus emerged, nose bleeding but grinning. "Well, that was exciting. Good thing I grew up in the Mariana Trench Research Station. This was nothing compared to deep ocean pressure." Krovik's crystalline form flickered in disbelief. The human had survived pressures that would shatter most species' molecular bonds. More disturbing still, he seemed to view the near-death experience as entertainment. That night, Krovik's sent their first report to the Council. Initial attempt unsuccessful. Subject displayed unexpected pressure resistance. Requesting information on human environmental adaptability. The Council's response was immediate. Information classified. Continue mission. Multiple elimination strategies recommended. As Kravix processed this directive, they heard laughter from the colony's common area. Marcus was regaling his colleagues with the day's events, now embellished into an amusing anecdote. These humans were clearly more resilient than anticipated. Kravix would need to be more creative in their approach. After all, every species had its breaking point. It was just a matter of finding it. The resilient spirit. Kravix's second attempt involved something more sophisticated than brute force. They synthesized a neurotoxin from the crystalline caves of Rediscover, a substance so potent it could paralyze a quantum phase being. The delivery method would be elegant. A microscopic crack in Marcus's environment suit during routine maintenance. The colony's morning briefing provided the perfect opportunity. Marcus was scheduled to repair micrometeorite damage on the colony's outer hull. Kravix positioned themselves in the airlock control room, ready to implement their plan. Beautiful morning for a spacewalk. Marcus announced, checking his suit seals. Anyone want to join me? The sunrise over Proxima is spectacular. Kravix declined, using their position at the controls to activate the nearly invisible nanobots that would compromise Marcus's suit. The toxin would seep in gradually, causing what would appear to be simple oxygen deprivation. The first hour of Marcus's repair work went according to plan. Kravix monitored his vital signs, waiting for the inevitable decline. Instead, they noticed something peculiar. Marcus's biochemistry was actually becoming more efficient. Hey, is anyone else feeling extra energetic today? Marcus's voice crackled over the comm. Must be that new coffee blend Dr. Patel synthesized. I feel like I could run a marathon in this suit. The toxin that should have shut down his nervous system appeared to be acting as a stimulant. Marcus completed the repair work in record time, even adding some impromptu improvements to the hull's radiation shielding. When he returned, Kravix scanned him surreptitiously. The toxin had been completely metabolized, converted into compounds that enhanced oxygen processing. Marcus's cellular structure had actually been strengthened by the exposure. You look puzzled, friend, Marcus said, removing his helmet. Something wrong with the airlock readings. Your species continues to surprise me, Kravix admitted. How do you adapt so readily to adverse conditions? Marcus shrugged. Adaptation's kind of our thing. Did you know humans used to deliberately expose themselves to small amounts of poison to build immunity? Called it Mithridatism. My great-grandmother was a toxicologist, used to say humans are walking chemistry labs. That evening, Kravix sent another report. Second attempt failed. Subject converted lethal toxin into beneficial compound. Request permission to study human metabolic processes. The Council's response was terse. Permission denied. Escalate elimination efforts. Time is critical. But Kravix was beginning to feel something unprecedented, doubt. They watched Marcus share his extra-energetic spacewalk story during dinner, the other humans laughing and sharing their own tales of unexpected adaptations. One spoke of surviving 3 days in a collapsed mining tunnel by entering a meditative state. Another described swimming through freezing water after a shuttle crash, her body somehow adjusting to the temperature. Each story defied biological logic, yet the humans treated them as routine occurrences. Perhaps, Kravix realized they had been asking the wrong question. Instead of, how do we eliminate humans? Maybe they should be asking, how have humans eliminated so many natural threats to their survival? But such thoughts were dangerous. They had their orders. Tomorrow, they would try something more direct, a catastrophic failure in the colony's gravity generators. After all, No species could survive sudden exposure to 20 times their normal gravitational force. Right understanding the enemy, the gravity test had failed spectacularly. Not only had Marcus survived 20 times normal gravity, but he treated it as an impromptu workout session. Krovix retreated to their quarters, their crystalline form clouded with confusion. For the first time in 3 centuries, they began conducting unauthorized research. The colony's historical database proved illuminating. Humans had evolved on a planet that seemed designed to kill them. Extreme temperature variations, constant natural disasters, lethal predators, and endless environmental hazards. Yet, instead of perishing, they had thrived. Krovix found themselves particularly fascinated by human medical records. A human could lose significant amounts of blood and survive. They could break bones that would automatically begin knitting themselves back together. Their immune systems could adapt to fight unknown pathogens. Most remarkably, they could continue functioning despite severe damage to vital organs. Reviewing our history, Marcus's voice startled Krovix from their research. The human was carrying 2 steaming containers. Thought you might like to try some coffee. It's how we survive the night shifts. Krovix accepted the beverage cautiously. Your species' survival mechanisms are unprecedented. How do you endure such constant biological stress? Marcus settled into a chair, his eyes thoughtful. You know what's really remarkable about humans? It's not just our physical resilience, it's our ability to find humor in almost anything. Take the Mars dust storm crisis of 2147. Colonists trapped for months in failing shelters, and what did they do? Started a comedy club. Humor as a survival mechanism. Krovix's form rippled with interest. Exactly. We laugh, we adapt, we survive. It's not just biological, it's psychological. Every time something tries to kill us, we don't just survive, we learn from it. Then we usually turn it into a funny story to share over drinks. Krovix considered their failed elimination attempts. Each one had indeed become an amusing anecdote among the colonists. They thought of their own species, how they sought perfection through unchanging crystalline stability. Humans, by contrast, seemed to become stronger through imperfection and change. I've noticed, Krovix ventured, that your species seems to run toward danger rather than away from it. This appears counterintuitive to survival. Marcus chuckled. That's humanity in a nutshell. We see something dangerous and think, I wonder what happens if I poke it. Half our scientific discoveries came from someone doing something that should have killed them. As if to illustrate his point, an emergency alarm blared through the colony. Atmospheric contamination in Section 7, the computer announced. Marcus was immediately on his feet. Coming, he asked Krovix. Might be educational. Krovix followed, watching as Marcus and his team fearlessly entered the contaminated section. They worked with practiced efficiency, sealing the leak and purifying the air, all while making jokes about similar past incidents. That night, Krovix sent no report to the council. Instead, they began composing a different document. A detailed analysis of why humans might be exactly what the Galactic Confederation needed. Their adaptability, their innovative thinking, their inexplicable ability to find strength in adversity. These weren't flaws to be eliminated, but assets to be embraced. The Council would not be pleased, but perhaps it was time for the Confederation itself to adapt. After all, if there was one thing Krovix had learned, it was that survival sometimes meant challenging the established order. Besides, they had grown rather fond of coffee. The greater threat. An emergency transmission interrupted Krovix's contemplation of human resilience. Their crystalline form vibrated with alarm as they decoded the message. A Corthan warship had entered the Proxima system, its intentions unmistakably hostile. The Corthans were notorious for their practice of harvesting intelligent species for their biological distinctiveness. The Confederation had kept them at bay for millennia, but this far from the galactic core, the humans would have no such protection. Krovix faced a decision. Their orders were to demonstrate human weakness, and a Corthan attack would certainly accomplish that. Yet the thought of Marcus and his crew being reduced to biological specimens disturbed their crystalline matrix in unexpected ways. Emergency meeting in the command center. Marcus's voice echoed through the colony's communications system. All personnel report immediately. In the command center, Marcus stood before a holographic display of the approaching vessel. "Our long-range scanners picked up something interesting," he said. "Is usual levity replaced by focused determination? Anyone familiar with this configuration?" Before Krovix could stop themselves, they stepped forward. "It's a Corthan harvester ship. They collect species they deem interesting." The room fell silent. Marcus studied Krovix thoughtfully. "You seem to know a lot about them. Any insights on their weaknesses?" "The Confederation has fought them for thousands of years," Krovix admitted. "Their technology is formidable, their methods brutal. They consider themselves the apex predators of the galaxy." Marcus's expression shifted into something Krovix had never seen before, a smile that contained no humor, only fierce determination. "Apex predators, huh? Well, they haven't met humans yet." What followed was unlike anything in Krovix's centuries of experience. Instead of panic, the humans displayed an almost predatory focus. Marcus organized his crew into teams, each attacking the problem from different angles. "Their shields are quantum-phased," Krovix explained, now fully committed to helping. "No conventional weapon can penetrate them." "Quantum-phased." Dr. Puttel, the colony's physicist, perked up. "Like your crystalline structure." "Interesting. Marcus, remember that resonance issue we had with the coffee maker?" Marcus's eyes lit up. "The one that almost shattered all our ceramic cups." Dr. Puttel, "You're brilliant. Krovix, would your biology be affected by a specific resonance frequency?" "Yes, but..." Krovix stopped as they understood the implications. "You want to create a resonance weapon that would disrupt their shields." "Better." Marcus grinned. "We're going to turn the entire colony into a resonance generator. Dr. Patel can modify our shield generators to emit the same frequency that affects your crystalline structure. The Corthan shields should react similarly." "That would require precisely calibrated energy pulses," Krovix protested. "One miscalculation and the colony explodes." Marcus shrugged. "Not the first time we've risked that. Remember Tuesday." The next 6 hours were a blur of activity. Humans worked with reckless efficiency, modifying systems in ways their designers never intended. They didn't just accept the possibility of failure, they seemed energized by it. When the Corthan ship entered orbit, the colony was ready. The modified shield generators powered up, emitting a frequency that made Krovix's form vibrate uncomfortably. The Corthan ship's shields flickered, failed, and their weapons suddenly found themselves unable to lock onto the colony. Marcus's voice crackled over the general frequency. "Attention, Corthan vessel. You've wandered into the wrong neighborhood. We're giving you one chance to leave. Otherwise, we'll show you why humans aren't just another species to harvest. We're the ones other species have nightmares about." The Corthan ship retreated, its supposedly invincible shields completely neutralized by human ingenuity and what had started as a coffee maker malfunction. Later, as the colony celebrated, Krovix composed a final report to the Council. Assassination mission aborted. Request immediate diplomatic recognition of human species. Advisory. Do not under any circumstances make humans our enemies. They are not a primitive species. They are what primitive species evolve into when their planet tries to kill them for a few million years and fails. Evolution of perspective. Standing before the High Council of the Galactic Confederation, Krovix's crystalline form shimmered not with pride this time, but with conviction. The chamber was filled with representatives from 1,000 worlds, all gathered to hear their testimony about humanity. Distinguished Council, Krovix began, 3 months ago, I arrived at the human colony with orders to prove their unworthiness for Confederation membership. Today, I stand before you to argue for their immediate inclusion. Murmurs rippled through the assembled beings. Elder Zixtal's form pulsed with displeasure. You were tasked with demonstrating their weakness. Instead, you appear to have been corrupted by their primitive influence. Primitive. Krovix projected images of the Korthan encounter. A species that transformed a failing coffee maker into a weapon capable of defeating our oldest enemy. Their supposed primitiveness is precisely what makes them extraordinary. The Council watched as Krovix shared recordings of their failed elimination attempts, the pressure chamber incident, the toxin that became a performance enhancer, the gravity test that turned into an exercise session. With each example, the murmurs grew louder. But most remarkably, Krovix continued, humans possess something our Confederation has gradually lost over millennia of technological advancement, the ability to evolve, to find strength in adversity, to become better through struggle. Marcus stepped forward, now wearing the formal uniform of a colonial administrator. The Council had permitted him to attend as evidence of human diplomatic potential. He showed no fear before the assembled galactic powers. Members of the Council, Marcus addressed them directly. We don't claim to be the most advanced species in the galaxy. We've made mistakes. Our history is filled with conflicts and setbacks. But every challenge has made us stronger. Every failure has taught us something new. Krovix watched as Marcus described Earth's history, how humans had survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and their own destructive tendencies. How they had turned their harsh evolutionary crucible into a forge for advancement. The Confederation seeks stability, Elder Zixtal countered. Your species embraces chaos. We call it innovation, Marcus replied. You saw it with the Korthans. While the Confederation has fought them to a stalemate for thousands of years, we found a new approach. Sometimes the most stable system is one that can adapt to change. Krovix interjected. I was sent to eliminate humans because they were different. I now believe we need them because they are different. The Confederation has grown too rigid, too predictable. The Korthans aren't the only threat we face, and we cannot meet new challenges with old solutions. The Council chambers erupted in debate. Some members supported human inclusion, seeing the potential benefits of their adaptability. Others feared the disruption they might bring to the carefully ordered galactic society. Finally, Elder Zixtal raised their crystalline appendages for silence. Perhaps, they said slowly, we'd have been too focused on maintaining what is, rather than exploring what could be. Krovix, your mission was to test humanity. Instead, humanity has tested our assumptions. The vote that followed was close, but historic. Humanity would be welcomed into the Confederation, not despite their differences, but because of them. As the session concluded, Marcus turned to Krovix. You know, for someone who was supposed to prove we weren't ready for space, you made a pretty good advocate. I learned something valuable from humans, Krovix replied. Sometimes the best way to preserve something is to let it change. Marcus grinned. Speaking of change, wait until they try the improved coffee maker we brought. If they think we're disruptive now. Krivix's form flickered with what could only be described as laughter. They had come to eliminate humanity, but had instead helped ensure its survival. It was, they reflected, a very human kind of failure, the kind that opens up entirely new possibilities. The kind that makes everyone stronger,